it's been a pretty crazy 2 years since I first got this car, and I can't tell you the number of people that I've met that have helped me out so much and kept pushing me to do different changes or go faster, and just all the support I've gotten, it's meant a lot. And I figured I'd make this video since online I get asked all the time, like how much do I have into it? It must have been a ton of money. Who did the work? How hard was it to do the work? Is the car reliable? So it all started because I had a Crown Victoria Interceptor, V8, rear-wheel drive, posi, just a fun car. But I needed something else. Like, I was always getting beat by my buddy. He has a Caprice with an Impala SS setup, and I could jump him off the line and just go by me waving, and I got tired of it. So I said, I'll find a fast car, or faster car. Well, in the meantime, I had a lot of other things going on, and I kind of decided that maybe I should wait and put a fun car on hold for a couple years until I was more financially stable or knew what I was going to be doing. So I went looking for a car, and my wife said, make sure it's practical. So I did what any gearhead would do, and I was looking for V8, rear-wheel drive, like GTOs, or I didn't really want to do Mustang because so many people have them. So I was thinking maybe like an older Corvette. And once I found out the GTO and the CTSV were out of my price range, it kind of crushed my dreams, and I actually was starting to look at some normal everyday cars. And it was January, and I was looking at a local dealership, and I found a Jeep. And as I was looking at it, I looked past it, and I saw this car covered with snow, and I didn't know what it was. I just happened to see the Benz logo, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, let me check that out. He's like, oh no, it's probably going to auction. And I said, well, kind of just look at it. So I went back there, looked at it, scraped off some of the ice and snow, like the doors were open, the snow was on the inside. Here, I found the V12 logo, and I said, oh man, I grew up playing this body style, W215, on Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, PS2. They had the CL600 AMG, I believe, and it was like a dream car when I was growing up. So we took it to get a pre-purchase inspection done, and I was all excited. I went in, and the specialty Mercedes-Benz mechanic that was traveling through the area was there, and he basically said, don't buy this car. There's so much wrong with it. He quoted me like $45,000 to $50,000 to fix it. Everything from the coil packs, the suspension, turbo problems, exhaust problems, multiple oil leaks and pumps that weren't working, like the tandem power steering ABC pump. And I said, all right, how bad could it be? And I got handed a 17-page pamphlet of all the error code readouts, front and back. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was not going to get this car now. And I went home and I looked up every single problem, every single code, tried to find every part that I could online for a cheaper price than what they quoted. And I ended up finding everything to fix 43 problems for about $7,000. So over the next year and a half, I went through and I fixed all of those problems. Everything from ABS sensors, coil packs, 24 spark plugs, coolant leaks, new radiator. The hydraulic suspension caught on fire, so I got rid of the ABC system. Doing that, I ruined the ABC pump because I capped it off, so I ended up retrofitting a W220 non-ABC power steering pump in here. I made some custom brackets, a shorter belt, one less rib, had power drives in here. Make me a custom hydraulic line to meet up with the rest of the steering rack, and it was like a constant battle with this car the first year and a half. I was doing a photo shoot for Mercedes Enthusiast magazine, and during the photo shoot, my entire passenger coil bank blew up, misfired like crazy, so bad that I thought the drive shaft came loose. It was just dumping the whole car, and that pretty much ended my season. Kind of babied the car through last year, got some nitrous in it toward the end of the year. So I took it to the strip, and I wasn't too happy. It was running like a 1.8 60 foot, but a 12-second pass. And you could feel it falling on its face. It would be great off the line if you had traction, and then it would just die off. Like the stock turbos were just way too small. And from there, I had a decision to make. Like, what do I do? Do I sell the car, pay $4,000 for upgraded turbos from another specialty company, or do I investigate a rear mount setup for this? I figured bigger turbo, it's kind of like an endless supply of goose I can run. Yes, there'll be lag or whatever, but it's going to allow me to actually get off the line and not just spin like crazy and then fall on its face. It should carry boost throughout the entire RPM range. It's a 78mm that was bought from Apex Performance Turbo System. I highly suggest working with them. It's incredible. After I decided to go rear mount, I began contacting companies and getting help from Nitrous Express. Definitely helped me out a ton. Toyo Tires helped me out a bunch. Eurocharge Performance, again, who's been excellent throughout this whole process. And Jerry Thornton is the man. So I started ordering the parts. I got turbo coming in, blow-off valves, a wastegate, all the piping I needed, intercooler setup. I did an upgraded water-to-air intercooler, ice tank in the back seat. I just needed to figure out what to do with my oil setup. I didn't want to run a pump all the way from the front of the car to the back of the car to feed the turbo and then a return pump all the way back up to the engine. So I decided to make a standalone oil reservoir for it in the back. It's a 5-quart, runs off of 2 TurboWorks pumps, 1 feed, check valve, pressure sensor, temp sensor, turbo, then drain to the other pump, another check valve so it doesn't pool up in there, and then another pressure sensor to an oil cooler and up to the reservoir. After all the parts came in, I had to get to work, and it was tricky because there was no other rear mount turbo setups for events like this. The only other car I found was old CL Benz. That was rear mount turbo, V12, different engine type completely, totally different platform. And it was a drift car. There was no help out there to find anything out about how they built it. So I was kind of on my own. I looked up on several Corvette forums how they ran their turbos, because a lot of those guys ended up going with rear mount turbo systems. And I kind of got some ideas for mounting. And once I removed the turbos and all the other junk that was just in there taking up space and creating heat soak, it actually looks like an engine now. Like, you can see almost all of the engine. It freed up so much cool air to flow through there, and the biggest challenge of the whole build was the exhaust system. I had to find 00 to 02 CL600 V12 non-turbo manifolds. So there's 4 separate 3-inlet manifolds. And everything fit, like it matched perfectly, the gasket and bolt holes and everything, but the front 2 pointed down right into the motor mounts, so I had to flip them from side to side and then invert them to get my plumbing to fit. And it was pretty much just 2 weeks, almost all-nighters of tacking, grinding, cutting, redoing it, swearing, tacking, grinding, until I had a basic layout of what I wanted just to get down past the engine under the car. And the rest was pretty simple. My buddy Dennis from Ohio came through big time, and he made me some awesome 2.5-inch to 3-inch merges. I thought I was done getting the exhaust together, and I realized I didn't have any bellows in there for flex. And you can't use a regular flex pipe because, I mean, I guess you could, but I don't trust it. I figure that those mesh grids that they use pretty much just blow apart and become a turbo killer. So I wanted bellows, wanted the front collector for the passenger side, so it allowed flex side to side between the 2 merges, and then one right at the back, right before the turbo up pipe. And that way I was able to wiggle it in there as one piece. My buddy Mike came through big time, helping me weld up for a whole day the bracketry to hold the turbo and the way it was going to be mounted, and just brainstorming. You know, my welds weren't pretty at all. Those memes that people make, that was pretty close to my welds, but I made sure they were leak proof, and I wasn't going for beauty, I was going for performance and making sure it wasn't leaking, because I knew they were getting wrapped with 2 or 3 layers of exhaust wrap to keep all the air hot, so I didn't really care at the time that they looked like shit. So whatever was going to work is what I wanted to go with. The other part that helped quite a bit that I couldn't do myself was an aluminum reducer, 4-inch to 2.5 inch coming off the turbo outlet. Gene Davis steel came through with one of the most beautifully machined aluminum pieces I've ever seen, so thank you to them too. My goals for this season are to make it to California in August for pretty much a once in a lifetime cruise. Me and my two cousins are going to go from Chicago, Route 66, all the way to California and back in about 10 days or so. I wanted to do this to prove that you don't have to have a ton of money to build a car like this. You just have to have the determination to put in all the hours. And enough money for parts, obviously, but the real money you save is by doing a lot of the work yourself and not being afraid to work on it. Like I said, when I first started to look up stuff, people were writing huge how-tos just to do the spark plugs or to bleed the intercooler system, and that was nothing now compared to everything else I had to deal with on here. So it was fun. It was definitely a learning experience, the biggest challenge I've had car-wise my whole life so far. And yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for putting up with all my car posts and supporting me along the way and giving me all the helpful tips. They've actually greatly helped me out with this project, and I appreciate all the shares and likes.